regular season itself. Maybe they have a point because of moments like these. Yeah, Jamie Tai is here to help me break down everything that's been happening. Now, the biggest piece of breaking news coming through as far as the NBA offseason is the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks have just waived their star player, Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard has been waived by the Milwaukee Bucks. He had $113 million left on his contract with them, but he suffered a host of injuries, suffered a blood clot injury. He's having a blood clot situation, if I should put it that way, and then he ruptured his Achilles in the postseason, I believe, against the Indiana Pacers. So the Bucks have essentially taken the decision to move on from Damian Lillard. Now, the interesting bit is they have used the Lillard money that they've obtained, or the cap space that's been freed up, to sign Miles Turner to a deal worth over $100 million as well. So they are stretching out the Lillard deal just so they can be able to sign Miles Turner. All this is an attempt to keep Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yao, let me bring you into the discussion. This is crazy. Yeah. I don't know what your initial reaction is, but how are you taking all this in?
Yeah, I'm very shocked. And my initial reaction was disbelief. It was utter disbelief that trading a star like Damian Lillard, it happens all the time. But for him to get traded, for him to get waived, that for me was a bit of a shocker. And to have the Milwaukee Bucks go in and trade for a guy like Miles Turner, that was also a bit of a shock for me, because I expected them to make a move for players that, let's say, are a little bit more offensive oriented and situated in a position that Giannis will be playing more as a center. Now that Brook Lopez has also been traded.
So you are looking at them
Clippers.
Getting more perimeter oriented players.
Yes, something like that. And because you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, what they lacked this past season and the season before that was consistent production from the wing areas, because Chris Middleton, after that title run, became hobbled with injuries and he wasn't the same, and they traded him, they moved off him, and the production wasn't consistent enough. So Gary Trent Jr. did his thing, Torrance Prince did his thing, but you didn't have the second force consistently helping out with Giannis's production. And that's the reason why they traded for Damian Lillard. Unfortunately, he came in, his first season, he got injured. His second season, things were building up nicely. And then he picked up the blood clot issue. Then it ended in the playoffs with the Achilles injury. And so that's what I was thinking that the Milwaukee Bucks would do, that you go in for perimeter help and have Giannis, who as great as a force of nature that he is, you can clearly tell that his game these days needs a little bit more protection. You need to protect him from those kind of situations where he's expected to be the best defensive player on the court, and at the same time the best offensive player on the court. That situation is a bit too tasking for him, no matter how godlike Giannis Antetokounmpo's body and makeup is. And so I was thinking more of he being deployed as a center, and Milwaukee Bucks looking to go in for players who would run the point, or players who will be small forwards, because that's what they really need. They brought back Gary Trent Jr. So he can man that shooting.
They brought back Taurean Prince as well.
Yes, so Taurean Prince can be like a backup in the small forward position, and Gary Trent Jr. be the starter. So I was thinking, you go in for a low maintenance kind of a point guard in, let's say, Tyus Jones, who are signed for the Orlando Magic for $7 million. Cool money. Yeah. Very cool money. So I was thinking they will make such a move.
That would have made so much sense.
Yes, I was thinking they will make such a move and give Damian Lillard 1 full year of rest and recovery. Then they will go out there and go headhunting for a top level small forward.
Let me not cut you, but let's chop it up. Does this trade and waive swing the needle for Giannis? Does this convince him that this is where I want to be?
No, I don't think so. Because he just tweeted that what is going on here. Like,
He
tweeted.
Chris Haynes just tweeted, and then Giannis has tweeted himself.
Yes, Giannis has tweeted. That he wrote 100. He captioned a tweet.
Yeah.
From an image of Brook Lopez celebrating their title, NBA title win.
Goodness.
And what is going on here? That was the main caption of that tweet. Then he retweeted it and captioned it 100.
Wow.
What is going on here? So it's clear that you could interpret it as, oh, maybe he's caught up in the whole whirlwind of the trades, or you could interpret it as a situation where he's expressing himself that, oh no, I'm not too happy with the moves that these guys are making. So it's a bit of a dicey issue, but I doubt he would be happy, because if you look at it at this point, their starting unit would be at center Miles Turner, power forward Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bobby Portis is also back, so let's say he starts at small forward with Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince manning the guard positions. I don't think you end up in the Eastern Conference Finals with such a roster.
Let's take a quick break here. We have a little audio technicality, so let's do a quick turnaround. But when we come back, a lot for you. We'll talk about where Lillard himself could possibly land now that his contract is being stretched. There's a lot more also happening with the Denver Nuggets, the Houston Rockets. A lot of teams are busy. It looks like everybody feels that the NBA is there for the taking if you look at the last 5-6 winners. So still a lot there for the taking. Let's take a quick turnaround. We'll come back right now. Suffered the blood clot situation. Yeah. So what's going on with him?
Is that point in a small guy's career where the heavy minutes start to pile on, and the injury situations become a bit of a major headache, because the level of recovery is not as it used to be. And that's the caution that always comes with paying small guys. And I remember I tweeted this, that this should serve as a cautionary tale to the Atlanta Hawks, because Trae Young's contract is coming up. Yeah. He has, I believe, 2 years left on his deal, and so they are thinking about giving him the maximum extension. And so, if you are going to give him a maximum extension, you should be wary of such things happening, because he's played a lot of minutes. Damian Lillard played all 4 years in college at Weber State. Yeah. He came in the NBA in 2012, and right from day one, he was a starter. He played heavy minutes.
That's a very good point.
LaMarcus Aldridge, those guys, he played a lot of heavy minutes, and he's a small guard. He's 6'1", 6'2", and so it piles up. And on top of that, he's one of those guys who loves to dominate the ball. Yep.
High usage rate.
A guy like Jalen Brunson, Trae Young, those guys, they do not age quite well. Allen Iverson was that kind of guy. You can make a point that Steph Curry is also a small guard, but he has aged well, primarily because he's not always bringing the ball up the court. Yeah. You find that Draymond Green consistently does that, and on top of that, Steph Curry's game relies on off the ball movement a lot. And
even him, right? With the Houston Rockets forced him to run off the ball so much this offseason, he injured his hamstring.
Exactly. And so once you have these kind of players on hefty salaries.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a problem once they age. And next 2 weeks, Damian Lillard will turn 35 years old. 35 years old.
That didn't even register in my mind.
Yes, 15 July. 35 years old. Next 2 weeks, he'll be 35 years old. He's played a lot of minutes, and now injuries are piling on, and you can't recover because of how you've aged. And so, honestly, I think it was a bit of a shock that he got waived. If he had been traded, it wouldn't have hit the same.
Yep.
But getting
to
waived
is
it's almost like it's a damning statement, honestly, for a star player.
It's basically the Bucks telling Lillard that he's damaged goods.
More or less, yes.
Basically.
Especially considering the assets they traded to get him. For them to drop this quote-unquote experiment just 2 years in, it just tells you the level of no confidence that they have in Damian Lillard. And like I said, this should be a cautionary tale to the Atlanta Hawks, who've done some wonderful work in the offseason so far. And that, you should be wary of paying Trae Young that max money with a lot of years on that deal. The best thing to do in such a situation will be to front that contract, have it be in a descending order rather than an ascending order, where at age 34 he'll be making like $66 million a year. Rather, front it and make the situation where now he's in his prime years. Let him get those $70 million per season. Then as he ages into year 33, year 34, then it trickles down to, let's say, a $35 million contract per year. And this will be like in 5 years' time when that max multi-billion dollar TV deal for the NBA will kick in, and that $35 million wouldn't make wouldn't take up much of the salary cap space.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Let's. I hope Lillard finds a good spot to land. I hope that a team can make use of his veteran talents if he's eventually healthy. But with an Achilles injury, it means that he's going to miss likely a good chunk of the regular season.
Next season. Likely next season.
And he'll come back at age 36.
Yeah.
This just makes more sense when you think about it.
Yeah, and at this point, he would be in the situation where he will be used as a salary dump, more or less. And so there are those guys that will end up on teams that aren't necessarily contending, like Washington Wizards, the Charlotte Hornets, Pelicans, those situations. So look out for those kind of
looks
things.
like the max contract days are over. Let's breeze through a couple of trades that have happened because there's a lot going on. Now, the Sacramento Kings have traded Dario Saric. They've traded Jonas Valanciunas to the Denver Nuggets for Dario Saric. Now, Dario Saric spent last season basically just warming the bench. And if you watch the post game from last season, Jokic was tired. I mean, trying to balance out playing center, playing point forward. I mean, Alex Caruso nailed his coffin by basically tapping the ball out of his hands every time. How big is this trade for them? Because don't forget, I mean, let's rope all the factors in. Michael Porter Jr. has been traded. They've brought in Bruce Brown, who was with them in the championship years. Just marry all of those factors for me.
Well, with the Sacramento Kings, it's just Sacramento being Sacramento. Trading in for a player who wouldn't move the needle, and it keeps them in that mid tier or bottom or close to the bottom tier in the Western Conference. So nothing new from Sacramento Kings. But with the Denver Nuggets, this deal is another wonderful addition, coupled with the deals that they've made already. Like you mentioned, bringing in Bruce Brown, bringing in Cam Johnson. He is one guy who definitely moved the needle for the Denver Nuggets. And backing Nikola Jokic's scoring prowess by having Jonas Valanciunas is a very good deal, because that guy, he doesn't need too many touches.
One of the most underrated centers in the league.
He doesn't need too many minutes. He will give him 15 minutes. He will get you 10 points and 8 rebounds. That's the kind of guy that he is, and you need those minutes heavily in the postseason, especially, and even in the regular season. You
can get more rest.
A little bit of more rest. And I would have wished that they traded for Clint Capella too, because you look at the kind of deal that Clint Capella signed with the Houston Rockets.
Very cheap. And that doesn't even seem like they need him.
Yes, $21 million for over 3 year period. That's $7 million per year for a vet. And he's a defensive kind of guy. I would have really loved that the Denver Nuggets got Clint Capella in and have him be the upgrade on DeAndre Jordan as the backup center, because Jonas Valanciunas is not the greatest defender. He's clearly been signed to play or take up the backup minutes on the offensive side. And
pretty good rebounder.
Yeah, the defensive side, like I said, DeAndre Jordan, doesn't cut it for me. I would have loved.
I'm surprised he still has an NBA contract.
Yeah, I would have loved for the Denver Nuggets to get Clint Capella. But looking at what they've done so far, it should be more than enough to be able to get them to the second round of the playoffs next season, and then they will have a good shot at making it to the Western Conference Finals, because they almost went to the Western Conference Final. They took the eventual champions to a Game 7, and like you said, it was down to the high level of fatigue that Jokic suffered, and that's the reason why
I've never seen Jokic that out of control.
They missed out on qualifying to the final.
He was in that Western Conference matchup against Alex Caruso. Never seen him like that before. Big move. I also like Bruce Brown coming back, because they lacked some shooting. Looks like he's the kind of guy who on a good playoff night can give you 15, 18 points.
Consistent defender,
in a game.
Hustle guy.
Very, very, very good perimeter guy to actually get. So that's one of the moves I like the most. Let's get to some other stuff, and let's talk about the Houston Rockets, because they have an abnormal amount of stuff going on right now. I'm not sure. I was asking where they got the cap space from, and then I remembered that they traded Jalen Green very recently. So they brought Clint Capella back, somebody the Rockets know very well. They extended Smith. Big deal.
Smith Jr.
I don't know if I agree with that kind of money for him, because he's not. I thought he was a talented player coming into the league. I don't think he's lived up to his expectation. I think our parent has become the guy they thought he would become.
Yes.
And so I don't know about that money, but they still have Steven Adams. They have Capella now. They still have Şengün. They added what's this guy's name? My guy Dodo. Dorian Finney-Smith. They're adding Dorian Finney-Smith from this thing. The Lakers. That's a pretty stacked roster.
Yeah, very, very stacked.
And they've extended Ime Udoka, if that even requires mentioning.
Yeah, and they worked out a brilliant deal to get Fred VanVleet to sign for a 2-year deal also. And so all of those moves helped to create that cap space to bring all these guys on board, because had Fred VanVleet not renegotiated or reconstructed or restructured his deal and dropped that player option that he had, it would have been difficult to bring in Dorian Finney-Smith and Clint Capella. But I think it's great awareness from the VanVleet camp, knowing very well that he's a very small player and he gets picked on defensively. And so you definitely need big-bodied, athletic guys in and around you consistently to be able to deal with that situation, so that you can focus more on getting production on the offensive side. Because if you look at how their roster has taken shape, on the wings you can have Dorian Finney-Smith, Amen Thompson. You can also have Tyree Eason in there.
Oh, that's
all of these guys.
Player.
Yeah, and all of these guys can also play that defensive role from the shooting guard position. Then you look at the small forward Jabari Smith.
But he has a defensive specialist in every position.
Exactly.
Now.
And so what that does is it just creates a situation where the Houston Rockets get to mirror what the Oklahoma City Thunder just did, where you have multiple defenders in every position, like you mentioned, but you have quality starters too, and they have quality in depth, and that's what exactly you need. So it's the NBA is pretty much living up to its reputation again as a copycat league, where the OKC Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, they have multiple players who score in double figures. Multiple players
who can all switch and guard multiple positions,
get multiple blocks, multiple rebounds in the game or in a series.
Dallas Mavericks have a similar team coming with Cooper Flagg and Davis and
they set the standard, and so others are also looking to imitate that, and that's what we are seeing with the Houston Rockets. But oh my goodness, it's brilliant.
And don't forget that Kevin Durant is the icing on the cake.
Yeah,
I mean,
just the ultimate weapon.
Just quick one for you. Where do they end up? They had a second seed in the regular season last season, by. Where do they end up with the moves they've made this offseason?
I think they will still be a top 3 seed next season.
Postseason?
They should make it beyond the first round of the playoffs that they reached this past season, where they got knocked out by the Golden State Warriors in the first round. And it was mainly down to the fact that Amen Thompson couldn't shoot.
Make it a conference final minimum with this team?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. Amen Thompson couldn't shoot. Jalen Green couldn't shoot. Yep. And so now you brought in Kevin Durant, who is definitely an upgrade over those two. Yeah. And on top of that, you've made life a little bit easier for Van Vliet by bringing all these wonderful defenders. And so, yeah, if they don't make it to the Western Conference Finals, I think it will be a bit of a disappointment. But at least they should make it to the second round. And if they fail to make it to the Western Conference Finals, at least, yeah, you can put it down to, bringing so many parts together over one off season, and just give us another year to run it back. That's how I will view it. But I definitely see them making it to at least the second round of the playoffs, because even with the flawed roster that they had last season, they gave the Golden State Warriors a lot of problems, and they almost made it to the second round. So now that you have pretty much an excellent, balanced, well thought through roster, the least you can do is to make it to the second round. If they can make it to the Western Conference Finals, that will meet expectations. If they fall short but make it to the second round, it will fall short of expectations, but it wouldn't be a complete disaster, because I'll pin it down to they finding their way, and I'll give it another season.
All I would say is that if you have Durant on your team, your level of scrutiny is different. And I feel like from the failures that he's encountered on the departures or on his journey, like the scope has become a lot more intense. The scrutiny is a lot more intense for him. The jury is out on him, really, because there are a lot of people who are now saying that, yeah, you were finals MVP, but that was a set team with a winning system, and Steph gave you those rings. And so regardless of how it goes, that I think that narrative will always come up. But let's talk about
that narrative. Is a bit skewed.
I don't want to spend too much.
No, just a quick one. It's a bit skewed negatively towards Kevin Durant, because for Kevin Durant to come onto the Golden State Warriors, they had to let some people go. They let Festus Ezeli go. They let David Lee and Andrew Bogut go. That's shooting, supplementary shooting, and rebounding and defense.
And Bogut is top level for them.
And he had to come in and cover up all those cracks or those spaces that they left behind. And so, if you remember very well, Kevin Durant was a very, very good defender when he was on the Golden State Warriors.
For the best defense he's probably played.
Yeah, and so he had to also pick up some slack in the, and he delivered. So fair. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think it should be like 90-10 against Kevin Durant. I think it should be more like 65-35.
Fair game. Let's talk about my Dallas Mavericks. Last season was a chapter to forget in Mavericks history. Traded franchise player Luka Doncic, but it looks like the sun is on the horizon again. They drafted Cooper Flagg, number 1 in the draft recently. They have made a very interesting addition to the team. So Kyrie, remember, has a cruciate ligament from the last playoff, so looks like he will miss a good chunk of the regular season, probably be back by postseason. But they've added D'Angelo Russell, a guy I'm conflicted about. I was a big Russell fan when he was coming out of Ohio. I love this game throughout, and then in the last couple of seasons he's been scapegoated a little. I think that happens when you play with LeBron. Lakers fans have been on his case for a minute, say he can't perform when the lights are bright. In the most important playoff games he doesn't show up. 2 years, $13 million to sign with this Mavericks team, and the Mavericks are very stacked. So when fully healthy, they have Kyrie, Dinwiddie, I believe. They might be bringing Brandon Williams back, probably have Cooper Flagg, Klay Thompson, Najee Marshall. We have PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and that's a very stacked team if healthy. How are you viewing this Russell fit with them and 30 million 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup. It's not the greatest pickup in the world, because you look at Jason Kidd and you look at D'Angelo Russell. I think there's a misfit in there, because he's not a Jason Kidd kind of guy, particularly at the point guard position, a position that Jason Kidd played and made himself a legend in the sport of basketball. I think bringing in D'Angelo Russell is good as a backup, not necessarily as a starter. And the starter would be Kyrie. And in my book, it's unfortunate that the Dallas Mavericks decided to extend him by 3 years and a little over $100 million. I think it's a wrong move that they made, because Kyrie, even before he got that injury, he was injury prone.
He's always been injury prone.
He's always been injury prone. And so you need a guy who is consistent in terms of his availability to come in there and run the points for Anthony Davis and Cooper Flag and company. And so for me, that was a questionable move that I didn't like from the Dallas Mavericks. But bringing in D'Angelo Russell, ideally as a backup, it's good business. But I look, the narrative about him, I don't think is a flawed one. I don't think it's a wrong one, because when he was with the Minnesota Timberwolves, once he got traded, Rudy Gobert was happy that he got traded, because he said he started playing like himself, because it was Mike Conley who started manning the point guard position, and he is a true point guard, true and true, always looking to feed the ball to others, while D'Angelo Russell always is looking for his shot first, rather than looking to play the point guard position. And on top of that, once he got traded to the Brooklyn Nets, he said, it's great that he's landed in Brooklyn. He's returned to Brooklyn because it allows him to play his game, and it allows to play freely. You can't play freely at this professional level in the NBA or in basketball, because you have to operate within a structure, a system. And that's why I say it's a bit of a misfit bringing him to Dallas Mavericks. But it's $30 million for 2 years. At the end of the day, very low risk move. He's more or less like a near constant healthy body. And so if you play him in the backup position, that would be great. And that's the reason behind, or rationale behind this trade. But the only question, it has to do with the starting point guard and the commitment that they made to the starting point guard. That's Kyrie Irving. I doubt he'll come back fully healthy. And even beyond his return, how many games would he play and how effective would he be? That's the only question mark when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks. Other than that, because
that's a cruciate ligament injury.
Yeah, other than that, I would rank them as a top 4 team in the West. But because of these questions, I struggle to do so, and I rank them as a 6th seed, 7th seed kind of a playing team.
Let's touch on a few moves that will probably not catch a lot of attention, but just quick thoughts on that. Dennis Schroeder. I'm just miffed at the Detroit Pistons, because I watched the entire playoff round the last time, and I thought he was such a valuable asset to everything they did. Every time Cade Cunningham went to the bench, they had literally no playmaking abilities on the court. They found a way to trade him to the Kings, and the Kings have signed him to a multi-year deal.
And Dennis Schroeder's journey in the NBA, I believe this is his 10th NBA
franchise
team. Franchise.
When I saw him play for the Hawks, I didn't think he'd be such a journeyman.
Yes, it's all because of that decision not to sign that multi-year deal with the Lakers, and it has cascaded into this. But I think it's a fine pickup by the Sacramento Kings. Again, it does not move the needle. But for the Detroit Pistons, it would have been a disaster if they didn't get a quality replacement. And I think they have one in Caris LeVert. They've signed Caris LeVert, so I think it's fair.
Decent.
He coming in.
But LeVert is injury prone too.
Yeah, but primarily as a backup to Cade Cunningham, I think it's a low risk move.
Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton. This is a fascinating move for me. I saw it this morning and I was shocked. So the Bucks have literally also waived DeAndre Ayton.
The Portland Trailblazers.
The Portland Trailblazers basically saying, okay, we'll pay you $25 million to go away. We don't want you in our team anymore. We want you to go so we can find somebody else. Does it make sense for a rebuilding team, first of all? And where does a player like Ayton land? Because I think a couple of teams will be looking at him and saying, you know what, this could be interesting.
I think Portland made the right decision, because at the end of the day, you are trying to trade him. You are not getting enough value on the trade packages that you proposed. And so you look at DeAndre Ayton, and I've watched clips, I've watched games where you can tell it's like you want more from him. You want more from him, as in terms of the hustle plays, in terms of the energy, the delivery of energy. You can tell that sometimes he's way too lax.
Chris Paul used to fight with him all the time.
Yes, because you have it. You have all that package: 6'11", 7-foot body, very athletic. big man.
Can catch lobs, can shoot.
Exactly.
Can shoot from mid-range.
A very sweet touch.
Yeah.
Very
can
sweet soft touch.
I mean, 3-pointers
and all.
Yeah.
So why are you pushing yourself? I think he's too lax, and so
he's paid a ton of money.
Yeah, he's paid a ton of money. So is that what you want from a guy that you are trying to build around? Because
yeah, he's supposed to be the franchise.
Yeah, he's one of the.
They traded Anthony Simons as well.
Yes, exactly. So these guys weren't getting the job done, and they weren't delivering on those off the court tangibles that you look out for. Mm-hmm. And so he's in his final season of final year of his deal. Yeah, you just buy him out, get him out of the building, bring in guys who would be able to help you build a culture.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what the Portland Trailblazers did. And where DeAndre Ayton lands, I think he will land on a team that is looking for a little bit of an offensive big man and not necessarily for his defense. And that's what DeAndre Ayton is noted for. And so don't be surprised he lands on a team like, let's say, the Boston Celtics or OKC Thunder, looking at what those teams have and have done so far.
Let's talk about the Boston Celtics, and I will link that again with the Houston Rockets in a way, because I've heard a few things. Now they look like they are in rebuild mode or retool mode. I don't know. I don't know how to call it, but so far Porzingis is gone. Mm-hmm. They brought in Anthony Simons from Portland.
They traded Drew Holiday.
As well. I've heard whispers that there is a possible Alperen Sengun, Jaylen Brown trade probably could happen. Mm-hmm. That Udoka likes Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is not too happy in Boston. He's not been for a minute. Can something like that happen? And what does the future hold for the Celtics? Because this is intriguing for me.
Yeah. If they move Jaylen Brown, then they're in full-blown rebuild mode. And that means we are very likely not to see Jason Tatum next season. Just give him ample rest, ample time to recover from that Achilles injury. If they move, I doubt they move Alperen Sengun, because looking at the bigs that they have, he's one of one. He's unique. He's unique in that sense, that what he brings to the table from that center position, you don't get it from any other player in on the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
And if you are moving him, if you are moving Jaylen Brown to the Rockets, I mean, per the guys that they have, and the touches that
Brown is a starter. I mean, if he comes in, he moves body. So if you have a starting unit of, let's say, Fred VanVleet, Brown, Durant,
Kevin Durant,
Smith, and Sengun,
I mean,
looks pretty lit to me. I mean, if Fred goes to the bench and you bring in a taller guard, or Tyree Eason can play a little point, that's almost a starting unit of 6'5" and above players. Yeah,
and that would be good. I have even envisaged a unit where Fred VanVleet is the only guy who is sub 6'10". Yeah, because if you play Steven Adams at the center position,
literally what it is. Actually.
If you play Alperen Sengun at power forward, Kevin Durant as small forward, and you play Jabari Smith as small forward, and you play Kevin Durant as shooting guard.
Yeah,
that's a humongous lineup. But it's all down to Boston Celtics. Would they be okay with the package that they get from Houston Rockets? Because I don't see Houston Rockets moving Alperen Sengun. Like I say, he's a one-of-one guy.
Franchise player.
What he brings to the table,
they call him Baby Jokic.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense.
Yeah, what he brings to the table, I don't think they'll move him. And if you are moving him, okay, are you willing to move Amen Thompson now that you brought in Dorian Finney-Smith? Maybe if you are willing to move Amen Thompson, and
I think you view Thompson as a valuable franchise piece going forward.
Yeah, if you are willing to move Reece Shepherd, Cam Whitmore,
that's a good name there.
Reece Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, and Amen Thompson. Oh yeah, then I can see the Jaylen Brown move happening. Yeah,
and I won't be surprised, because Whitmore didn't play a lot in the postseason, which was surprising for me. Every time the camera focused on him, he looked like he wanted to punch somebody, and that's crazy because versatile wing, can handle the ball, can shoot from
a
distance.
Pure scorer.
I'm not sure why he wasn't playing, but a package of Reece Shepherd and Whitmore makes a lot of sense for rebuilding teams.
Yeah, and Amen Thompson will be the one who will get that move over the line. And so it depends on the package that Houston Rockets bring to the table. If they are not willing to bring these guys on the table, or maybe let's say Jabari Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, and Reece Shepherd. If such a package is not on the table, I don't see Boston Celtics making that move.
Yeah.
Or let's say Reece Shepherd, Cam Whitmore, and Amen Thompson. If such a package is not on the table, no, I don't see Boston Celtics making that move. I think Anthony Simons would get moved and have Derek White starting alongside Jaylen Brown in the guard positions. Yeah. Then you have Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench, and Simons' move would be made to get, let's say, a big man in there and make them competitive in the Eastern Conference, where I see them getting to the Eastern Conference semifinals. Beyond that, that would be a surprise.
I was looking at the Mavs getting Peyton Pritchard, but I mean, it passed us by low-key. Let me just say a big shout-out to those of you who are watching us on YouTube and those of you who are joining us on Twitter. So on YouTube, Joshua Nketiah is here. Let me read out a few tweets or his message, because we don't get a lot of basketball messages or ball heads. Joshua says the Bucks are actually going to pay for Miles and Lillard, even though he's been waived. Yes, I mean,
yeah, it's going to be spread.
Exactly. Say if Giannis leaves, they are doomed. Well, they know that for a fact. David Amedome says, won't fault the Bucks on this Lillard decision. Lillard might even miss the next regular season, and he's become injury prone. No guarantees here. True. Kweku Totime says, but Kevin Durant doesn't improve the team. He's a bust in the playoffs.
Wow, that's a shock. That's a big harsh shock.
Durant.
And just a quick one on the spread. I mean, look, next season will be the final year for the Washington Wizards to get rid of Ian Mahinmi's contract. You remember Ian Mahinmi? Yeah, Ian Mahinmi. Next season, he'll be making $22 million against their cap.
You're kidding me.
Yeah. No, against their cap.
So NBA contracts are so crazy.
Yeah, so next season will be the final year where they scrap or they get that that salary off their books. So that's how it's going to be for Damian Lillard over the next 5 seasons.
Looks like good money. Joshua Nketiah again says that Dallas should have gone for Malcolm Brogdon instead of Russell. That's a good shot. I like Malcolm Brogdon a lot. He says Jaylen Brown is definitely staying. He will be number 1 option for this coming season. His salary will be a problem for the Rockets. It's definitely a max. Yeah, so true. That would definitely be a handicap around their neck. Let's finish off with LeBron.
And that's why I think it's possible they will move if that deal will go as planned or go on ahead. Then that means they will have to move Jabari Smith, because he's the one who has agreed or signed a big deal. So you have to balance the amount of money or salaries. And so, yeah, if they are going to make that move, then it will have to be Jabari Smith. And at the end of the day, the Boston Celtics also need a big man, because you can't keep on relying on Al Horford now that Porzingis is gone.
I think Al Horford is actually gone. I think he's retired officially this season. Yep. So this is his last season. Anyway, let's finish off with LeBron. The news is that he is exercising his $52.6 million player option for the season. What does it mean for the Lakers? Yeah, big news for the Lakers. You know, they just had a new owner come in because Mrs. Boss just sold her share. So I think he's probably looking at the bigger picture of what's going to happen. But what does this mean to you? What does this mean for the Lakers?
It would have been no big deal kind of move. LeBron James opting into his player option year. But the thing is, he did it, and what came afterwards with Rich Paul, his agent, saying that LeBron isn't too happy and that he wants to play for a contender, a team that's contending for a title. That's what has brought about all this LeBron buzz. Other than that, it would have been just another day in the life of the NBA free agency. That we expect LeBron to pick up that deal. Option, But now that all this chatter has come up, I think, if I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets traded.
Destination
would be Cleveland, because now they are the ones who have legit assets, and it will be in the East. I don't think the Lakers will be dumb to trade LeBron James to a Western Conference contender.
I don't even think he wants to go through the West.
Yes, exactly. On his body with the 23rd year.
Cleveland will make such a sentimental end to a chapter.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, if you trade him to Cleveland, you are definitely moving Darius Garland, who will be a secondary ball handler, playing alongside Luka Doncic. That would be great. And you definitely have to move Jarrett Allen too, and that's a big man that the Lakers need, a defensive big man that the Lakers need. And so, because at the end of the day, you have Jackson Hayes. He is more of an offensive big man. And so if you bring in a guy like Jared Allen, yeah, that would make a ton of sense. It will balance the books. It will keep the Lakers competitive. At the end of the day, the Lakers always need to have a franchise superstar player. They have that in Luka Doncic, and so they wouldn't have to worry about all those things too much. And they'll be able to keep their books clean for the next year or two for them to really go out there and get another superstar to pair with Luka Doncic. So if LeBron stays, no surprise. And if he gets traded, I honestly wouldn't be surprised, especially if he gets traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so if he goes to the Cleveland Cavaliers, you match him up with, or you pair him up with Evan Mobley, the reigning defensive player of the year, and you have a guy who will handle the ball in a secondary fashion in Donovan Mitchell. And in the East, that should be more than good enough to get you to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Makes a lot of sense. I think this is where we will bring it to a stop. Let me just say big shout outs to Gershon Yabusele, my guy, drafted by the Celtics, went all over Europe, played with the Sixers, and actually has proven his worth. He's gotten a 2-year contract. He's heading to the New York Knicks
cool
for $12 million. Yes,
cool
2 years,
deal.
$12 million. Very cool money for Gershon. So the big news, like we came on here with, is the fact that the Milwaukee Bucks have waived star point guard Damian Lillard, who is owed an amount of $113 million. And they've used that stretch money to sign Miles Turner for $103 million, I believe. So a lot of things happening. Giannis Antetokounmpo apparently is very unhappy with this trade. We'll see what it means, but this has been another City Sports special. As and when the breaking news comes through, we'll probably be here to update you. So big shout outs to Yahweh Jamita for helping us to do this one. This is how we bow out from here. Thank you very much. You can catch, I believe, a repeat of this on our City Sports YouTube channel, and also we'll have excerpts of it on our City Sports handle. So we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.